You guys, were you expecting to win against G2 today, Caps?
So I didn't expect that we would be able to do the trick, but I think it just comes from the perks of us having worked really hard the last couple of weeks, and also the fact that Sven moved to NA, which definitely helps us take down G2. And yeah, I think as a final note, I think Fnatic as the Kings of Europe is more than just a myth.
Do you think G2 can be as good as last year without Sven and Mithy?
What?
Do you think G2 can be as good as last year without Sven and Mithy?
I'm not sure if they will ever return to what they were last year, but they definitely have strong players. If they're strong enough, only time will tell, but I doubt it.
Broxa, you tweeted earlier that you receive a lot of hate from your fans. I mean, they're awesome, and they also can be really intense. I mean, is it something that affects you and can affect your play?
I wouldn't say it affects me. I was just surprised about it, actually, because ever since I joined the team, we've always been having the fans on our side, no matter who we've been playing against. But this time, after the two first losses, there has been a lot of flame going my way and the team's way, and I was a bit surprised about that. But obviously, at the same time, 99% of the fans are kind, and after tweeting that out today, I got so many heartwarming messages.
And Caps, how about you? Do you feel any pressure coming onto stage, knowing that, well, they may be flaming you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, I was definitely nervous the first game, and I feel like the games this split haven't been. I mean, we're trying something new, so we're not as comfortable as we usually are. But I think it will just come with time, and hopefully, throughout in a few weeks or so, we will be at our best, and we will show the same confidence we showed last year.
Well, you both were rookies last year. I mean, you went from baby faker to teenage faker. What have you learned from the last year, from Worlds to, well, where you're at today?
I mean, I think I'm not sure what I can say I learned, but I think I mean, there's so many in-game stuff I learned. There's so many out-of-game stuffs I learned, especially from our veterans. And this year, we have brought on in Youngbuck, who has a lot of knowledge from G2, who can teach us even more. So I'm definitely excited to see where we can go this year.
Well, and last final question for you, Broxa. Where do you expect to end up this year with Fnatic?
I expect us to go to Copenhagen and win the Wolf thing.
Yeah, well, that's about right, and I wish you good luck for that. Congratulations again for today. And that's all for us on this side of the stage. So now to Shox and the guys for the European post-game lobby.
Thank you very much, Laura, and indeed welcome to the EU LCS post-game lobby, where I'm joined by Martin the Fisho, Lunga, Sencooks, and Hussein Mousby from Misfits still for a look back at today's games and, of course, yesterday's games, basically the whole of Week 2. And let's start immediately with Fnatic versus G2. Gentlemen, can I get a poll? How exciting was this game? I thought it was quite interesting, especially in those end phases.
In this meta, where sometimes we have games with very little action, I actually think we had a lot, so that already makes the game exciting. A little bit too much A-ramming maybe, but I think there were some cool plays. I really like the Zoe play, and I like Caps Z as well.
Yeah, possibly a bit too much A-ramming. Why do you think that happened, that both teams kind of just were stuck in that mid lane, Hussein, and didn't seem to find an advantage after the early game?
I think Fnatic probably has to try to A-ram and play around Baron that way, and I think G2 maybe over-respected Tankkench a little bit, so they both kind of fell in the trap of A-ramming, and it just benefited Fnatic this game.
Did Fnatic kind of steal the game back by that first Baron?
I think definitely the double pick they found in mid into the Nash was definitely like the game-changing thing. It really turned open the game for them. That's the only thing, they needed with the Cho'Gath.
Yeah, because beforehand we talked about the picks and bans. You guys said, well, G2 has the stronger draft essentially. So who didn't do his job?
Oh, I hate blaming one guy then.
Yeah, I don't even think you can blame one guy, because I think we saw a lot of people getting caught this game. Like there was the first time botlane got caught and they got Nash. Then there was the second time where Perks got caught at one point. I think almost every member besides Shangos got caught this game. I don't know about Wonder, but
Generally, it was a pretty tough game from Janen's side on the Varus. I had a few team fights where he ended up a little bit too far forward, and then suddenly he was a target. And of course, in the mid lane with the first Baron, him and W2D2 were trying to push it out when they actually shouldn't, and Caps just killed him. So I wouldn't blame one specific player. It was just a pretty rough game for a Varus with very little mobility if we look at the whole game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You guys talked about disconnect for both Fnatic and G2 before this game, that we wanted to see some more synergy on the Rift. Did this game give us much insight into the evolution, or was it more of the same, Hussein?
I don't know if it gave us more insight into it, because it really was just ARAM from both ends. It's very easy to look coordinated when you're together. G2 definitely shouldn't be getting called out as much as it did this game. It's not like Fnatic had too much engage on their end. They really didn't even have any engage. It's just Azir shuffle and then Cho'Gath Q, or I think that's pretty much it. So they just didn't seem coordinated at all.
No, I mean, there was not that much macro play this game, I think.
Not much macro play, so you say...
Half the games in this meta is push mid, go Baron, win a team fight, win game.
I mean, it was an action-packed game, that's for sure.
It was exciting to watch.
Yeah.
It was. You specifically mentioned Shurima Shuffle and Azir, and the player of the game was Caps with 70% of the votes. We were looking so much at that middle lane, and it's a bit maybe unlucky because Perkz was, in my opinion, also having a great game on Zoe, or especially putting a lot of pressure down in the later phases of the game. But on the other hand, Caps performing and having those essential ultimates.
And you asked about, you know, the disconnect beforehand. I still felt like there were a lot of fights that was started where Reckless wasn't there, because he was still coming either from base or from a side lane, and a lot of it was down to Caps then, as kind of the main damage dealer on the team. I think he actually played a really good game, and he set up the Baron. He set up a lot of picks in general on this Azir. So overall, a good game, and kind of bouncing back after yesterday. He got absolutely destroyed by Vitality.
Yes, and I want to kind of touch on what Laura asked Broxa there in the interview, because Broxa had this emotional tweet about the fans being a bit upset. I saw Wadid with some emotional tweets about, hey, we're not happy with our performance in G2, we need to be better. So how do you think mentally this will affect them? Because Fnatic can take a lot of confidence from this win. And on the other side, G2 might, even feel worse about this. They obviously will, but how will this affect them going into next week? Senkux, you think?
I feel if we take the Fnatic side, I still wouldn't be too confident. Obviously, it's a bit of a boost, but still, when you lose if you don't go 2-0 on the week and you've lost some some games you shouldn't have, you still feel kind of bad about it, and you still want to prove people wrong. Like, not everybody is proved wrong yet just because they beat G2. It's not like G2 is having the best games either. So, I mean, from a player perspective, I wouldn't say it's the biggest boost just yet.
G2 is 0-2, by the way, this week.
Yeah, a rough week for them. How much, when it comes to confidence, comes from scrimming now that it's best of one on stage? Like, you can't be knocked that far down by losing one best of one. And I feel like, isn't it more about if you have a good scrim week, you feel good going into the week of games?
I think it's very different from players. Some players are just really confident naturally, like they don't really need that boost, or some people get affected by the Reddit hate, the Twitter hate, stuff like this. And some people can get it from scrims, some people can get it from having the right preparation going into the week. But yeah, it's hard to get the confidence on stage when you only have one game. That's why, I mean, BO1 is fun to watch and all, but it feels better to play a BO3 and get more stage games in.
Yeah, makes sense. And talking about confidence, a team that's been very confident is Vitality. And going into today, they were also the only undefeated team in the EU LCS. But then they met Misfits. You guys beat them today. It was a very action-packed game. Vitality has been going guns blazing into these games. They're very aggressive right from the start. What, now that you've had a couple of hours to think about it, was the key in the end to taking them down today?
I mean, I didn't have the greatest game of my career, that's for sure. But Maxwell had a pretty good Baron steal, and I think my bot lane played pretty well. At least from what I heard in comms, they caught some people a lot, so...
Yeah, Hansama was player of the game, so he must have done something right.
I want to hear from the coach, though, if it's a planned strategy to let the enemy team start Baron and then kill them and win the game.
I mean, it's not so much a planned strategy as much as just a really bad call from both the teams we played this week. I don't understand the call. There's no pauses of PC swap this time, so, you know, there's no excuses there. But I'm still okay with this game because of, like, we didn't do as well as we should have individually, but from a map perspective or a team perspective, I still think we played really well. And the moment we got a small advantage, we really took advantage of it. So I'm still happy with how we played.
Hussein, I'd like to ask you something that we heard from Cold yesterday. We had him as a guest and we asked him about, you know, what can you really say about the teams now since it's best of one, it's the first 2 weeks. And he said he thinks it's relatively... He likes to see teams that are aggressive early, pick early game comps and try and win through that and run over teams that have late game scaling comps, and that's kind of the right way to play. What do you think about that?
I think in this meta, it's really hard to do. We tried it, but personally, like Misfits was always a team that loved to play early game. Even at Worlds, we tried to do that. In playoffs, we did that. So I would love to see the meta switch back there. But I'm glad to see that even though the meta isn't necessarily what Misfits was strong at before, we're performing pretty well in it, and we've learned to play in it.
Anyone have a differing opinion, or?
I can agree. Like, I think playing the early game is it's way harder to snowball the game without doing any mistake when you play an early game comp. If you do one mistake, it can really throw the whole game. Whereas now it's just like you can't really end the game because the enemy team just wave clears and scales, and then it's just a bomber in the
I
late
guess
game.
it's always something, because we used to be really mad when it was like, oh, one mistake, they played so well and still they lose the game. Now it's something else.
I mean, it's just, I think it's easy to play the game if you can tell your team you don't have to make any proactive moves in 25 minutes. Then you hit 2 items and you start playing around mid and Baron for pure team fighting. And it's not to take anything away from teams, and of course there are things you have to do, but I think it's a little bit easier than if you have to play a snowball one specific lane, and if you mess up a skirmish there, or if you pick the wrong lane to play around and suddenly you fall behind and your comp just gets outscaled. That is obviously harder to do. I think Giants was actually a great example of a team who picked a comp that just wanted to wait 25 minutes before they really did anything. And then they fell behind a little bit, but HOK were not aggressive enough in the way they were playing, and the vision wasn't good at all. So Giants just stalled. And the moment they hit 25, they walked mid and took a tower on a Baron. Bam, game was over.
Yeah, Giants know what's up in the meta. Another team that's doing really well, Roccat, one of the most positive surprises of the split so far. Today they were up against the Unicorns of Love, and they won again. And this is their 3rd win in a row. So Roccat, yeah, guns blazing. A lot of members we didn't really know what to expect of. Memento and Blanc working well together. Impressive.
What do you think about Blanc in the mid lane?
I thought when I met him, when he was playing in PSG and I met him sometimes in solo queue, I thought he wasn't that great, but playing in scrims, I think he's fine. I don't think he's bad in any means, but I don't think he's like top mid lane either.
Right. Norskaren was the player of the game. Again, a surprise. Someone we really didn't know what to expect about him, and that bot lane is doing really well.
He keeps getting that Braum. Every single time he's team fighting well on it. I think at this point some of the teams need to start looking at very specific picks.
So you're saying some of these teams that we didn't expect to win are winning a lot is because they're not being banned out properly or drafted against properly?
I mean, I think Giants are actually playing generally... Roccat is playing pretty well with what we're seeing right now. But in general, I think it's not that the teams are not getting banned out properly always. It's just, I think a lot of teams struggle to translate scrim performance to stage very early on. And definitely seems like communication-wise, some teams just break down completely. HOK is one of those teams. Where I feel like with Giants and Roccat, these kind of guys actually seem to be on the same page and understand how to play for late game. And then get to late game team fights. And of course, then team picks like Braum help a lot. Well,
Giants' Steelback said in an interview on Friday, actually, or maybe last week, that he was really happy that they could translate their scrim form to the stage, and that was something that didn't always work in the teams he was part of. And it seems to be working so far. Giants also beat H2K today. They're also on a roll. So is it much like Roccat, it's just the beginning of the split and they're having some unexpected good players, the teams aren't ready for them? Or can we give them some real praise? Because Giants, we shouldn't call them underdogs anymore. They're just good now.
I think the biggest difference from Roccat to Giants is that Roccat has a harder schedule, I would say, in the start. But like, not by any means taking anything away from Giants. Like, they still had some pretty good games, and especially when they took down G2 yesterday, right? And like Roccat, I just feel like Rocket's drafts are like pretty good, where Giants is just like kind of gambling for the late game most of the time. But they're still playing good games. So
I think they're going to get punished, Giants specifically, if the meta changes. And it's going to be a lot more about early game. But I think right now, as long as it stays like this, Giants are actually playing teamfights very well. And they play well around Baron as well, from what we've seen so far. So they can keep winning games.
Well, just to close out this talk about both Roccat and Giants and all the teams that have unexpectedly gotten wins in our eyes, right? Mentally, it must be a real shift for some of these players. You have some of these players like Betsy, like Steelback, who have not really had a lot to go off in previous splits. They picked up a couple of wins in the middle, maybe a surge late in the split, but now they're winning in the beginning. So it must be a completely different mindset for them, Hussein. It must only be positive for these kind of old schoolers that are picking up these wins early.
I'm sure it's positive right now, and it also helps in the sense that if you're winning a lot in the first part of the split, then it's really easy when the meta shifts to work with your team and try to learn how to play the game properly. I still think a lot of these teams will struggle when the meta changes to early game, and maybe the teams we expect to be better will be better at that by then. But for now, it's definitely like a huge boost for these teams.
It is, and it also be boosted when they see where they end up in the standings after week 2. Let's take a look at the EU LCS rankings so far. Giants are 3-1, Misfits Gaming and Rocket and Vitality are also 3-1. And then we have a big middle of the pack, and unfortunately all the way at the bottom, H2K, but with no wins on the board, the Unicorns of Love.
It is such a rough start for Unicorns, and when you watch the games, it's really hard to kind of find one big thing that they can play around or focus on that they're actually doing well, because one game it's the early game that falls flat, the next game it's the late game team fighting that's not very good, and the third game it can be the draft where they first pick Evelyn or something like that. And I think Cold as a jungler is doing well on this team, but he needs someone else to step up, like especially Exile in the mid lane needs to be better if this team is going to start winning games.
I like the way, I mean, I'm still used to calling him trashy, but Cold is playing at the moment. Like, he's playing he seems to be playing more early game focused than we did in Splice most of the time. And I think he's doing well with it. I think the issue most of the time for me has been the drafts. I really don't think they have any like way of winning the games most of the time. And I think it really limits them in game, even though they do. Against Splice, they had a good early game, but then they fall flat the next week. So it's hard to say.
It is hard to say. These are the actual standings, but we also asked you guys to come up with your power rankings and asked you to share those based on what you guys have discussed. I'm going to call it the Moosvi and Sencook's power rankings, but the Fisho did play a heavy, I don't know, how should we call it? Advisory role?
When they were stuck, I would say, okay, guys, it's between these two teams. And when they said, I'm not sure, maybe this, maybe that, I said, okay, let's put this team then. And we moved on to the next one.
So should we start from the top or the bottom? Actually, let's start from the top. Misfits in #1. Color me surprised. However, I don't think it's completely unreasonable. You guys are at the top of the tables of the actual rankings. So why the mental advantage of putting you guys, why do you feel like you're the actual #1 of the league?
Yeah, why?
I think outside of a very unlucky draft from my end game 1, we've played probably the cleanest mid to late game of any team right now. Schalke, I think, will be really good, but between Schalke and us right now, they of course didn't have upset for the first 2 weeks, so they'll take some time getting back into the shape of things. So for now, I think we're probably the clear #1 in terms of how we're actually playing the game.
All right, I'm going to just go through the shock factor, so to say. Fnatic 7 and G2 Esports 8, obviously not what everyone would have expected. And if they maybe have not seen all of the games, they will say, what the hell? So why do you rank them so low at this point in time, Sencooks?
I mean, this is purely from stage performance, because scrims is something pretty different, and I'll probably, like, this list would not look anything like this from scrims, that's for sure.
Who's #1 in scrim teams? Who's the best? Misfits.
Yeah,
second best.
No, I mean, look, the story of Misfits is like whatever happens in scrims, the opposite happens on stage.
Yeah,
so.
Usually when we have a bad week of scrims, it goes better.
Yeah,
so
we
that's a European classic, to be fair.
Yeah. But I think G2 and Fnatic, like they just haven't seemed to get their stuff together on stage yet. Like G2's games has been so sloppy, and Fnatic's game yesterday just looked. I mean, let's be real, they got kind of dumpstered by Vitality, so. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to put that middle. Like we were discussing, we were saying that the fish show for quite a while, but I mean, I guess we made it.
I do like that giving Rocket and Giants lesser so, but Rocket putting up pretty high, so kind of giving them the time of day, and that's equating them with how they are in the actual standings, because a lot of people are saying, when is that bubble gonna burst for Rocket, and when is reality gonna catch up with them? But they're just good right now.
I mean, they are very good at the moment. I love the fact that
who's your standout player on Rocket?
On Rocket at the moment, it would probably be Blank in the mid lane or Memento. One of the two. I think Noscaran is good as well when he gets the Braum every time, but...
Say that again. Take it away from him.
No, he's playing really well on it. So I think Blank for me is probably the standout now, but also Freddy and the fact that he's hammered into these players' heads that every time you go back to base, you buy at least one control ward. So that Rocket map is this, it's so littered up with wards almost all the time.
You talk about it so often. You noticed it as soon as, I think, game 1 of week 1 that they had really good vision control.
It was beautiful, and it makes it really hard for teams to punish them in the early game because they have so much vision down on the map and they put so much focus on it, so they get to scale into team fights, which they're playing well. And also the Baron calls have been pretty clean. So that's actually why Rocket should be behind the list. Vitality, I mean, they lost to the best team in Europe, so you can't really take them too far down, even though they are not undefeated anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. But Vitality, what do you think of the longevity? I don't know how to pronounce that correctly anymore. How long can the success last for them? They did drop a game today, and a question we've asked Hussein is, 4 of the players on this team have won a lot. They won over in Spain. They requalified with Giants. They were doing so well, and we don't know how they're going to react if the tide turns, if they start losing a couple of games. So do you see Vitality's success lasting into the playoffs?
I mean,
possibly at the end?
I don't necessarily think they'll have issues in terms of their mentality. They all seem like really confident / cocky players. So
maybe too much.
Possibly. So I think it'll continue for most of the split. But I do think when the meta changes, or when you require, like when the transitions from early to mid to late are a lot more punishing, then they'll probably go down a lot just because of the mistakes they'll make.
I do want to ask though, what is the best thing about the current Vitality right now?
I would say the confidence in the way they play. I mean, at least I think Jizuka surprised me a lot of how at least he played on stage there, because a lot of new mid laners have had a bit of nerves, I would say. And I mean, I couldn't really feel that with him today. Like, he was playing kind of like, I wouldn't even say cocky, because he played it well, so he just played pretty confident and how he should. And I think that's the same for like most of the players, like how if you see the tweets on Twitter, like most of them are slightly cocky, you know.
They already won the spring split.
Yeah, I guess, but I think confidence is a big factor for them, and I don't think it's going to be taken away by any means of a few games. And maybe Yamato can do some wonders with them. I trust him, my old coach.
Yeah, you worked with him a lot, and he did some good things for Splice as well. You guys all did. Did you see the article on All Esports that Betsy did? He gave his power ranking of mid laners. He put Nukeduck as the undisputed #1, and I actually don't exactly know where he put you. Hopefully someone tells me in a second. But what do you think of the Nukeduck hype this year?
I think it's acceptable. If I would take off practice, because I haven't played everyone on stage yet, I would definitely put Nukeduck #1, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, even. What's Perks?
Like, Perks is probably second. Like, it's kind of like a group second. I don't know how to put it. I just feel like Nukeduck has been like the best from practice.
Where are you in your own ranking?
Number 10.
Number 10?
Yeah,
why is that?
I mean, we saw that today when Jizuka destroyed him.
I think you're laughing a bit.
I'm not rating myself.
All right, cool. Well, you can rate him. Where do you put Sencooks?
Ooh, so now I got to come up with a list here.
Clearly see confidence is not an issue in Misfits.
There you go. I mean, he's in my top 5.
Oh, on Betsy's list, he was number 6.
He's probably number 5 on my list.
All right. He's 4 on my list. There we go.
Oh, he's 5 on mine.
Thank you. I appreciate
5 on
it.
mine.
All right, let's move on. We got some explosive... Oh, Hussein wanted to...
No, he's just number 1.
Where do you put him?
Yeah.
Number 1, obviously.
Oh, number 1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's hard. Okay, well, we got some explosive moments over the week, and you took to Twitter to send in your LCS big plays. Here they are, brought to you by Acer Predator. And the name on everyone's mind after week 2, the Italian stallion Jizuke, he showed no fear at all against Fnatic as he completely took over the game on his signature pick, Rise. Let's take a look.
Knocked back immediately, but the point-click CC still makes it too easy. Caps is going to drop again. No, Jizuke now on the hunt, the flash forward. Caps in trouble, the auto to bring it home. Proxa wants to bring it in. Oh, he's poured down! Clean play from the side of Vitality. Caps is going bot lane. Jizuke, 1v2, could be in trouble. A lot of damage goes in, but he's shielding up so quickly. Caps is in trouble. Jizuke looking for the outplay. Can he get it? That's 1. Might just look for 2. He's feeling himself. I can hear him hollering on stage. He wants 1 more, and he's gonna get in trouble. Oh! Outplayed.
Kill team base, okay? I need wards. Arzonias? He's 1v2.
Oh my god. Raping.
Jizuke! Nice! Can we Nash from this?
Oh, what
Yes.
the fuck are you doing here?
Let's go Nash.
That's
yes,
my
yes,
face!
Yes. Let's go! Nice! That's my boy, man.
Oh, what
Yes.
the fuck are you doing here?
Let's go Nash.
That's
yes,
my
yes,
face!
Yes. Let's go! Nice! That's my boy, man.
Whoa, every time we have a highlight, he's just screaming and
I
going
love it, man. That's why it's so cool when they are winning, because they clearly get so hyped up as well that we start seeing more and more of these plays. Sadly today, it wasn't enough, even though they were actually winning the early game.
The Cooks was too strong for Jizuke today, but another rookie that has shown up so far is Roccat support Norskeren. He came up clutch for the team in a big team fight, and at LDF was quick to highlight the Norwegian's performance on the heart of the Freljord.
Odo1 is now joining the fight as the Hump and the secondary prop. Let's profit to safety. The Forge God is called his block. Norskeren prevents it, finding Odo1 then Splice are now in trouble. level. The Shurima shuffle will not be needed. Niski under a lot of threat. Niski goes forward, 1-for-1. Memento for Niski. The door into the wall. That sets it up for Rocket, and they shut down Splice.
Okay, can win. They have Skarner. Skarner. Nice, no one ulti.
Look.
Asir.
Yes.
Slow. We can win. Asir, kill Asir, no jump. Asir, no jump. Wait, IQ? Bonus! Kill Bonus! Nice! Oro! Yes! Nice!
I love his backwards dab or whatever it is.
I don't know what it is.
I'm cool with the kids, guys.
Today he was more like this. He went like... We're like, I don't know, that's a dab kind of thing as well.
You've mentioned Brown a million times. We also highlighted it in the big plays. It's possibly going to get banned away from him next week at this point.
Who knows? I mean, right now he's playing it and he's doing very well on it.
He's doing very well.
Why not just keep carrying on it?
Good stuff. Well, we also had to wait 19 games before we got our first pentakill of the split. But what a play it was. Splice's Kobe secured the win for his team after a 47-minute long brawl with Schalke 04.
He's going to jump in on towards Vander as well, tries to get the stretching strike out. The chain of corruption is going to come back on towards him, but remember, Zillion has the ult. There's the Let's Bounce brings Pied back. They're jumping on towards Niski. The engage from Splice is superb as they get one kill. Upset's dead. Brian getting chased. Kobe's on the front line. Good by Schalke. There is Kobe. Shreds through you. He does the quadra. It's going to be a big shot for Kobe.
Look at Jarvan.
Yeah,
I'm watching. I think I'm floating. Yeah, I'm spinning Kaylin. Kaylin does the motion she wants. Kaylin can fucking win. Focus Azir.
Can I get penta?
Azir. Yeah.
That'd be
fucking yeah. Nice.
Did he ask if he can get penta?
Yeah, he did. Already with the double kill, he was asking for the penta. I like that.
He was so polite. Everyone was like screaming. He's like, guys, can I please get my penta? And I really don't think they were trying to give it to him. He probably just got it, it sounds like. So even more impressive when the rest of your team is trying to steal it.
Yeah, good last hitting skills.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good last hitting skills. Are you proud of your ex-teammate?
Of course. That's my boy.
That is your boy. Well, before we move on, I do want to maybe have some words about Misfits specifically as a team. Hussein, we talk about the one-year plan. You guys blew everyone out of the water last year, at the end of the year at least, best performers at Worlds from the European team. So where is Misfits going to end maybe as soon as playoffs? And what is it that is going to make Misfits become the Spring Split champions?
I mean, if you look at our hires, I've got the best mid laner and the best support now, along with the best top, best jungle, and best AD. But
boring.
Seriously, okay, fine. I think we've always played the best macro game, or at least tried to, and I think we'll continue to do that. With the loss of G2 in EU, every other team is basically playing catch-up in macro now. Schalke seems the closest, and they'll probably be our competitors for the championship. So I think we just have a lead in that sense from everyone else, and I think we've got really good players, so I don't think we'll ever struggle individually at all.
What's the new plan for the year? Because last time it was clear you guys just wanted to go to Worlds. That was everything that mattered. Is it now?
It's to win everything now.
Win Worlds?
Everything.
The classic.
Yeah, I think it's really nice that you already said, well, hey, I think we're going to make it to the final. I think Schalke is going to be a competitor, and I think we're ahead of the curve there. I think you also have deserved it at this point to make your intentions clear, right? Don't have to beat around the bush, and we're expecting a lot from Misfits as well.
I mean, this definitely should be the split where we get a new team winning EU LCS. So far, since 2013 until now, we've had 3 teams winning EU LCS, with Alliance winning once, Fnatic 5 times, G2 4 times. I think it's very likely that this split we will have a completely new team winning in Copenhagen. So it could be Misfits, could be Schalke, could be somebody on
I can imagine you would be very happy if you could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Excited.
You got to bring a Danish flag.
I got a Danish flag.
Of course, every true-blooded Dane has a Danish flag. I mean, I guess.
Everything in my apartment is painted in the Danish flag, so.
Red and white.
Even your sausages?
Yes, I only eat white and red sausages.
Alrighty, and the ELCS continues next week, starting off with a fight between Unicorns of Love and H2K. What are the Misfits doing? They are playing Fnatic in the last game of the day on Friday. So, well, good one there. Fnatic, they won versus G2. They look scary, but it doesn't seem like you guys are too scared.
Can you do that again?
It's debatable how scary they look.
We're confident. You know, it's not like any, especially in best of one and in the current meta, it's not like any team is you're just straight up better than them. Anything can happen because a lot of it does come down to draft. But as long as our gameplay is clean, and that's what I'm going to focus on most, then I'm sure we can take anyone.
All right, the new patch hits next week, I believe, for EULC as well, so that'll be very interesting. Over in Los Angeles, week 2 of the NA LCS is starting off with Clutch Gaming versus CLG. And as we close out the day here in Berlin, if you missed any of the action from today, be sure to tune in for our rebroadcast starting right after the games in North America. So we are just in time. You can go check out the NA LCS, and that's all from us here in this week. Thank you very much to our guests. Thank you very much to Fisho for joining me as well. We will be back next week, Friday, for more fights in the EULCS. See you then.
There we go, clear that vision out. Now the control goes down for Santar. This is incredible. The steal up. Oh, no, we can't quite do it. And the game is over. Giants with the win. They load up, and of course the always making noise in the crowd. He's just walking through the team. He's gonna get pulled up to Crystal. He's gonna go down.
Nice. Good job. Nice.
Tides of blood. Ace in the hole. Totoro wants to intercept it. EQ's gonna finish him off. And with the Forge guy rampaging through, there was nothing the Unicorns could do. Rocket once again have not lost a man.
I'm trying to help Hansama scale up, but Senkooks so close, he might be dead here. Jizuki's looking for the power side. He gets it! That's an outplay from Jizuki.
I see myself just destroying him next week. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. If Gilly is talking, let's be real, okay?
4,000 HP, Maxwell might look for the seal. Has the ult if he wants to go invis. Gilius is quite low. The Baron's so low, the jump in the sleep. Maxwell steals it away once again. And they get a kill on Gilius. Jizuki trying to get Eden up towards the side, but he goes down. Misfits get 3. And Misfits continue on their way to the top of the EU LCS. Strike out the chain of corruption. He's going to come back on towards it, but remember, Zillion has the ult. There's the last bounce boots pied back. They're jumping on towards Niski. The engage from Spike is superb as they get 1 kill. Upset's dead. Brian getting chased. Kobe's on the front line. Goodbye. Shalkanov there is coming straight through you. The quadra. It's going to be a big shot for Kobe.
Spike's going to be taking a win against Schalke. Sense too when you think about all the single targets. CC, the Sejuani ultimate.
Serena Shuffle! Yara gets a bunch of visual offers with Dick, tries to get away, blocks him with the ultimate side, but Fnatic should be able to close this game out. They go for the Nexus, they go